All right, last video for 9.7. Thanks for hanging in here with me for the 3. So this is 9.7 part 3. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the law of cosines. If you don't know, if you remember from our previous section, hopefully you watched part 2 first. To use the law of sines, you need to know one side and its opposite angle. Okay, so you need to know one side and its opposite angle. If you don't know that, you can't use the law of sines. Then we'll have to use something called the law of cosines. This one is a little more involved. Okay, and I'll try to help you make sense of the pattern. Okay, so here, again, this is if you don't know a side and its opposite angle, okay, you can use the law of cosines, which says if you take one side and square it, so if I take a squared, it will equal the sum of the other two squared, so b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times the cosine of a. So what I want you to notice is here, this is the cosine of angle A. Over here is side A. Okay. In the next one, here we have the cosine of B, side B. Cosine of C, side C. Oh, we should have switched colors there. Either way. Okay, so the side that is here, that it's equal to, squared, is equal, and it has the angle over here. So here's the side, here's the angle opposite. And then B and C are just the other two sides. Okay, so we kind of have that pattern that this and this are connected. They are the opposite side and angle. Okay, the first and the last, and then the other two here. It's important to notice this is all one term. It's 2 times B times C times the cosine of A. But you have to be careful. Order of operations, I can't add this chunk to this until I deal with the multiplication first. Order of operations, you have to do multiply first. And that's the most common mistake when dealing with the law of cosines. So here, this again, a squared is equal to the cosine of that A. Okay, again, with the b squared plus c squared minus 2bc. These, okay, I will write one of these on an anchor chart on the wall for the skill check. Okay, law of sines you need to know, but I will write the law of cosines down. And the area formulas you will need to know, okay, but the law of cosines will be written down. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's look at one using the law of cosines. Okay, so here again we want to solve this triangle. I don't know a side and an angle opposite. This is the only angle I know. I don't know its opposite side. Okay, but this is the angle that I know, and this is the opposite side. So I'm going to highlight them. This is the side I know. Here's the opposite angle. Sorry, the side I don't know. The opposite angle I do. So I'm going to use the one that involves the c squared, because that's the angle that I know. So for the law of cosine, c squared is going to equal, now we're going to do the opposite other two sides. This is side A, this is side B. So it'd be a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times the cosine of big angle C. Okay, so now we just plug in everything we know. So c squared, we don't know that. A is 20 squared, plus b is 25 squared, minus 2 times 20 times 25, times the cosine of 40 degrees, the angle opposite. Basically, it's just plugging in. Now, if you notice, I know everything on this side. This is the side I don't know. So c squared is going to be approximately, now I can just type this whole entire thing in. We have 20 squared plus 25 squared minus, and your calculator does order of operations, so it will do it in the right order, the cosine of 40. And we get 258.95. Again, that's what c squared is equal to. So c would be equal to the square root of that. Again, I don't want to do any rounding, so I'm not going to take the square root of 258.95. I'm going to type in square root, and I'm going to arrow up and grab that. So there's no rounding involved. It gives me the whole entire thing. Hit enter. So c is approximately 16.1. Okay. If we go to the nearest tenth. Okay, so now we know this side, approximately. So I'm going to store that as C, store, again, hit that store button right here above on, alpha C. So now when I need it, it's there because I'm going to need it to find these other two angles because I don't know the measure of angle A. We found angle C, but we found, sorry, side C, but I need to find the measure of angle A and the measure of angle B. I don't know those yet. Okay, so we need to find them. So now that I know a side and an angle opposite, I can actually use the law of sides at this point. So we know the side, so 16.1. Again, I'm going to use my alpha C in my calculator for that. Divided by the sine of 40 is going to equal, now, I don't know, find A. Okay, so it'd be 20 over the sine of A. Okay, so we're going to means extreme. So I have 16.1 times the sine of A equals 20 times the sine of 40. Okay. All right. So let's bring it up over here. So then I would need to divide both sides by 16.1. So the sine of A is going to be equal to 20 times the sine of 40 divided by 16.1, which again, that's my alpha C. And I can write myself a note. That's my alpha C in my calculator. Okay, so I'm going to now do an approximation for that. So we have 20 times the sine of 40 divided by, we want to use my C, alpha C. We get 0.798. So the sine of A is approximately equal to 0.7988 dot dot dot. I'm going to now store that as alpha A so I can use it later. Okay, so then if the sine of angle A is that, then A is going to be equal to the sine inverse of the 0.7988. So I need the sine inverse of, it's my alpha A, 53. So A is approximately equal to 53.0 degrees. So the measure of angle A is approximately, is approximately 53.0 degrees. I don't need to do that whole process to find B. I know this is 53.0 degrees. I can take 180 minus the 53 minus the 40. So angle B is approximately 87 degrees. So there, we found the two missing angles. We have our missing side. We have now completely solved this triangle. Okay, so now we have one extra example to do, and this is one where I don't know any of the angles at all. Okay, I know all three sides, no angles. So this is our last example. Okay, so again, I have to use the law of cosines because I don't know any angles. I don't know any angles at all. So I pick which angle I want to find first. Doesn't really matter. Here's the smallest side. Let's find the smallest angle. So we're finding angle C. So this is side C. This would be side A. This would be side B. Okay, so since we're trying to find angle C, we know side C, then I'll use the one that's equal to C squared. Okay, so C squared would equal A squared plus B squared. Again, I'm just writing the formula down first, 2AB, the cosine of big C. Okay, angle C. Okay, so now we plug in what we know. We know C, so this would be 18 squared equals A squared, 30 squared, B squared, 27 squared, minus 2 times A, 30, times B, 27, times the cosine of big C. Okay. So now we just do some computing. 18 squared is 324. Now we have 30 squared, that's 900. I can't do this all on my calculator because you know this is my variable over here. This is what we're trying to find. This is my missing piece. There is my variable. So I need to isolate that variable first. So I'm going to have to do some, I'm going to tick here. So 27 squared is 729 minus, now we have 2 times A times C. So 2 times 30 times 27, 1620 times the cosine of C. Okay, so be careful. This 1620 is times the cosine of C. So I can't put it together with these first two. But these are just additions, so I can put those together. So I have 324 equals 1629 minus 1620, the cosine of C. And I always like to think if this was just a big X, if I had 1629 minus 1620x, The first thing I would do is move the 1629 to the other side. So that's what I'm going to do by subtracting. Okay, because 1629 minus 629 gives me 0. 324 minus 1629. Over here I have a negative 1305 equals negative 1620 cosine C. Again, if this was a big X, it's a multiply here. The next thing I do to get rid of this multiply, I would divide. That divides out to 1. So I have negative 1305 divided by negative 1620. We get, I'm going to get that as a fraction, because it will, 29 over 36. Cosine of C. So if the cosine of some angle C equals 29 over 36, then C is going to equal the cosine inverse of 29 over 36. So now I just need a cosine inverse, 29 over 36. So the measure of angle C is approximately 36 point nearest tenth 3 degrees. So now we found the measure of this angle, 36.3 degrees. Okay. So now we would just need to find angle B and angle A. But now I know a angle and its other side. So now I can solve the rest of it using the law of sines. You should never have to use the law of cosines more than once, okay? Once you use the law of cosines, you will now have a side, an opposite angle. You can use the law of sines after that point. Okay, so if you have questions about any of this, or if you have questions once you get started in your practice, please come see me, let me know. Again, we're going to skip example 8 just for time purposes. Okay, but if you would like to do that problem with me, please come see me. Good luck on your practice and skill check.